There are two primary color models used in graphic design separated by their medium. RGB is an additive color model used for digital screens, whereas SMIC is a subtractive model designed specifically for physical printing. So when you use RGB, the screen makes colors with three colored diodes. Like in pixels, you will see exactly red, green, and blue. But when you use SMIC and you print that image, then printers use cyan, magenta, yellow, and black inks to color. If displays and printers can use only three colors to show us a full brightness and variety of tones and shades, then in our challenge we also can use only three of them, so let's do it! In my head, these two color systems were always absolutely different, but in fact they are kinda similar. Cyan equals blue, magenta equals red, and only green and yellow are different. And surely black is another. However, I had something like a base of colors in my head, red, blue and yellow. And that's what we learned at school, to mix colors and get others. It was a big discovery for me that not everybody imagines a color circle to get an understanding of which colors you should mix to get the one you need. Maybe that's obvious for my mind, but anyway, the usual system of mixing paint and colors isn't working with digital coloring and isn't working with print and coloring, and I need to try how it works with usual painting. First of all, I had to choose what I would draw. I decided that there should be something with a big variety of colors to make my work with colors more complicated, so that could be a true challenge. To make that experiment more objective, I should choose one picture for all color systems, but I did it a bit another way. I just chose different things to draw, but there is also an advantage because I could choose the hardest thing to draw with exact color combination. For example, if I draw something with a clean green color, then RGB will have an advantage and SMIC will have a disadvantage because RGB has clear green, so I could use only this clear green, clear green. But SMIC doesn't have a clear green, so I should mix it, and SMIC will obviously have a disadvantage. But if I draw something with clear magenta, then SMIC will have an advantage and RGB will not, so I hope you got it. I've chosen, if I can say it, a kind of hard things to draw per each color set. So when I use RGB, I don't draw things that are literally simply green or blue or red, and the same with cyan, magenta and yellow. The challenge will be honest only this way. I started the challenge with the most simple task, red, yellow and blue. Just to remind myself that I can draw with a few colors and I don't need a big range of colors with shade differences and other differences. When I draw something in a traditional way, I mean not a digital way, then I use a few colors anyway. It's just becoming more interesting to play with colors. So I don't usually use a lot of different shades of one color, for example 10 greens or 10 pink colors. I usually use simple red, yellow, blue, green, maybe some hard colors like I don't know, brown. And anyway, I can change that shade with using another color overlaying on the other color, so it's more interesting to draw this way. I guess you've seen some videos about color theory where they are coloring something simple as a tangerine or an apple, but without using a color theory. it looks simple and unattractively. But with color theory usage, it looks gorgeous and more neutral. So I'm kinda using color theory while coloring something. I make shadows with an opposite color of the main theme. If I have a warm lighting on a picture, I'm making a cold shade and warm shade according to the cold lighting. There are just a few simple rules that are easy to use and they can make your artwork look much better. So I use it intuitively and I would recommend it to anyone who wants to make their works more vibrant, unusual, recognizable, and just adorable by yourself. So then goes Smake, and Smake seemed quite easy to use because, as I said before, it has that color range that allows me to mix colors and get the most complicated. So if we look at them too, I mean red, yellow and blue, and Smake, then we can understand that cyan is a sort of blue, magenta is a sort of red, their black is black and yellow equals yellow. It makes our mind easier to understand how to work with them. Honestly, I didn't really understand how printers mix these colors because using red, blue and yellow sounds much easier, but anyway, they're both kinda similar and I interpreted it successfully for me. So I made a pretty good result and I can tell that I've done it. Well, I googled a bit and Google says that cyan, magenta and yellow pigments work differently from usual paint art colors. So it's not just mixing watercolors or mixing pencils or other usual pigments for artworks. So these pigments, they absorb specific wavelengths of light from white paper. It didn't explain me a lot, but surely it's just more complicated and that's all. But I've made my art even using these colors that aren't made for just painting. The thing of RGB that makes it unreal to use in a traditional way is that mixing red, green and blue at the same time in digital usage creates white. That is just logics, because They are making light together, so the brightest and the lightest thing we can get is only because of usage all lightings in our displays. So if you look closely at displays, you'll see these RGB lighters. So that is why I knew that using these colors in drawing will not make a whole variety of colors, and as a result it just looks dirty. Maybe, I guess, it's just a thing. I didn't take the best green, the best shade of green for this challenge. So as you can see next to my RGB art, the lightest and the vibrantest one in mix with red makes something like orange, so it could work if I took it. However, anyway, it would look dirty, so I didn't make a remake of this art using another shade of green. Well, so I've made artworks with using 3 coloring systems. First one was artsy, red, yellow and blue, then digital, red, green and blue, and for printing, cyan, magenta, yellow and black. And I can say that red, yellow and blue obviously the most useful for drawing because it is created exactly for that, and it has abilities that are directed exactly on artistic paints. Smake is pretty good, but it doesn't give me a whole range of colors, so it's not for painting. And RGB RGB as well. It's just obvious information that everybody knows, but I have something more to say. Using a limited number of colors makes your mind think in a bit, maybe just a little bit, but in another way. That is useful not only for creators, but also for somebody who has drawing as a hobby. Well, it doesn't matter. I would recommend you to try to color with a limited number of colors. Not necessarily the same as I used in this video. For example, not long ago, I used just 2 colors to draw a deer. It doesn't look realistic, but it looks unusual and creative, and I like it. Ability to work with limitations opens you absolutely freedom.